Today I wanted to make a video on how to do informal assessment of your students' knowledge of letter sounds. And this kind of assessment is super important, especially for students in the younger grades, or like kindergarten, grade 1, or even a little bit older, grade 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6, especially if they're struggling readers. So, when I'm trying to do informal assessment, I'm trying to keep it pretty simple, pretty fun, and also really, really non-threatening, especially for students who are struggling. It's so important for them not to feel like they're failing something, which means you have to have a good understanding of how to make it easier. So when I'm starting out, I just try to see if students know the sounds for letters. And if you've watched my other videos, then you know that we have more sounds in English than we have letters for. So it becomes important not to just look at the alphabet and if they can say the sounds for the letters of the alphabet, but also if they know the sounds for the letter patterns that we use to represent other sounds, which I usually call digraphs. It's mostly 2-letter patterns that represent one sound. So that is something I will look at for students who are able to kind of cope with the letters of the alphabet. But the way I start out is just by spreading out all the alphabet letters on a table. So I have little flashcards with the letters of the alphabet on them. I spread them out on the table and I say, I want to know if you know the sounds for any of the letters on the table. Like, let's look at this letter. This letter says, do you know the sounds for any of the other alphabet letters? And this is non-threatening because it doesn't assume that they're going to know anything. They just show you if they know stuff. So they'll probably pick up at least a few letters and say, oh, this one says or I know that one, it says. And when they get the letter sound right on the first try, you can take the card and put it in a little pile that means they know that letter. Now, when you're doing assessment, you can help them out. Informal assessment, you can help them out. You can give them clues. Just make sure that if they haven't done it independently and accurately on the first try, that you're not counting it as right. Because when it comes to reading, the processes involved in reading need to be very automatic and very quick. So if they're kind of fumbling around, not sure what a letter says, then they don't know it automatically enough for it to be helpful to them when they start to read a book. So let's say they see F and they say, maybe it's, oh no, I know that one, it's, then you say, wow, that's really great. But then you put this in the pile of letter sounds they're not quite so sure about. Or if they say, do you know this one? And they're like, oh, I don't know, then you could say it's like this. Like, I really like my food, and then maybe they say, and you say, great job, but you still don't count it as a letter that they know. So once they've kind of picked through the letters on the table, many of them will know some of the consonant letters and the sounds that they make. However, many will not know all of them, especially if they're younger or struggling. What you really want to look at is the vowel sounds, because this is where most students are going to be having difficulty. So you have your 5 vowel letters, A, E, I, O, U, and most students, when you ask them what sound they're going to make, if they have an answer, they're going to say A, E, I, O, and U. And you can say that's right, because those vowel letters do make the sounds A, E, I, O, and U in certain words. So like in the word me, E says E. Or in the word time, I says I. However, what you really want to know is if they know the short vowel sounds for the individual vowel letters. And most of them are not going to know this, or they might know a couple, or they might know some sort of and be confused about some. So when you show them E, they might say, ooh, ah, or eh, and they're not sure. And that's the case where you're saying they don't know this one for sure. Especially for the short vowels, they have to be very quick and very accurate with them. So you check out the short vowels, check out all the consonants, and if they've done quite well and they've recognized quite a few consonants and short vowels, then you can try some digraphs. And I always start with the consonant digraphs, ch and sh, because when these go together, they usually make the same sound, and they're kind of common to see in early children's books. So, ch and sh. And you might also throw in. Now, if they can't recognize these, I just give up on digraphs altogether. They probably don't even really have a sense that we sometimes have letters that go together to make one sound, and that's something that will be important to teach them later. However, if they manage to get a couple of those, you can check out some other digraphs. For example, your R-controlled vowels like and or. These might be a little bit easier to recognize. Your long vowel digraphs like A as in rain, or O like in the word boat. Or some special vowel digraphs like oi from coin, or ow from cow. You can also ask them if they know another sound for OW, O like grow. And by the time you're done, you're going to have a pile of letter sounds they know and a pile that they don't. And you're going to be done, they're going to feel good about themselves, and it will be a pretty quick way to assess that. Now what you're probably thinking is, that's all well and good that they can maybe say the sounds of the letters. Sometimes letters don't even make those single sounds, and what they really have to be able to do is read words. So why don't I just ask them to read a book? And that is fair enough. It's very important to see if students can read the words in a book. Now the problem is when you're having students test their ability to sound out words from a book, that they can learn words in different ways. In fact, sometimes they don't even really recognize the word, they're just guessing it, or they're sort of predicting it from the sentence. They're using the picture to help them. They might just recognize one or two letter sounds but not the whole word, and that might be enough to help them out. Or they might be memorizing whole words and not actually being able to sound them out, just recognizing the word as a whole. So when you want to know if students can really sound out words, you have to be a bit thinky about how you're testing them. And it is important to see if students can sound out words, because the most skilled readers are actually very quickly decoding words and new words. And that is a skill that is automatic for them and is helping them learn to read. Most of your struggling students, the reason that they're struggling so much is because they can't sound out, because they don't have that automatic decoding process. So, how are you going to know if a student can sound out a word, or if they're just guessing it, or if they memorize the whole word? Well, you want to try some words that have the short vowels and the consonants in them. So these are called CVC words because you have a consonant, a vowel, and then a consonant. And the vowel makes the short vowel sound. This is very important. So you can give them a few words like this that they can try to sound out. And to make it more fun, sometimes I have little pictures of words. So maybe these aren't very good words to represent with pictures, but I might have a bun, or I might have a dog or a cat picture, and then I say like, and then I have the words, and I ask if they can match the picture to the word, and that kind of thing. So that's one way to do it. But you run the risk, even doing stuff like this, that they've seen the word before, and they've just memorized the whole word, and they're not actually sounding it out. So, and how do you know? How do you know if they've just memorized the whole word? Well, for example, maybe the student can read the word best alone, not even in a book, not even in a book where they can guess it from the picture or from the sentence. They just can read the word best by itself. Well, then if you show them the word nest, they should also be able to read the word nest if they're sounding out the word best, because nest and best have the whole ending part the same, so you just have to re-sound it out. Nest, nest, should be nice and easy. However, best is a little bit more common than nest, so if they've only memorized best by looking at it, they should have more trouble recognizing nest because they haven't seen the whole word together. Also, you can do other words that are even a little bit further away from the original word, but that share some letter sound information. So st at the end, if students can sound out best in full, then they should be able to sound out the end at least of fist. So these kinds of complications around figuring out whether students are or aren't sounding out the words is why some people will test students using non-words. And the thing about non-words is that this just takes the ability to decode and removes it from any other process. You can't be memorizing these words because you've never seen them before. You can't be guessing these words from a sentence or using a picture because they're totally made up. So this really gets down to the brass tacks of figuring out whether students can sound out the word or not. And your really, really skilled readers are going to be able to do this really well. I did this with a little girl in kindergarten who the teacher said, she's the best reader in the class. And she whipped off the list of non-words faster than I've ever seen anyone. And that's because those skilled readers are using their letter sound knowledge very quickly. So that's my first video about how to do informal assessment of letter sound knowledge and decoding. And my next video will quickly address how to do it with spelling.